Alright guys, so today I primed the engine just to see what oil pressure was at. I had to replace the drain plug because somebody had a fitting in there for like a heater element and that went flying. So my wife is going to pick it up for me. So yeah, I could have probably bought like a pipe plug for that, but that's kind of ghetto. I went and I bought the correct TAP 20 drain plug and it's good. For now, I got the other distributor in there because I have to do a bench test on the distributor that I cobbled together. And if you guys dig back in my archive, I've done this twice on how to check the GM HEI on the bench. It's fairly simple, fairly straightforward, and you find out if the distributor is working or not. And you can do it out of the car, which is convenient. So, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is you guys keep seeing this, I posted up as a budget build, budget build, budget build. Well, a budget is nothing unless you crunched certain numbers. So I'm going to break it down for you guys before we go over the specs of the actual engine. I don't know if I formally went over those with you guys, and I'll explain just real quickly what they are. So the original cost of the engine was $1,100 plus I think $500 for my old Dodge Durango that I had, which technically that was a freebie because my dad let me have it when he bought his new one. It was so driven into the ground that I had to put money into it, and I got my money's worth because I invested like $2,800 and I got 3 years out of it before I had to buy a new car. So really, the Durango was a wash. So I'm gonna consider the $1,100 cash that I had to pay for the engine my base price. Then I bought the balancer. I gave him $180 for the balancer, which is our BHJ balancer. Our rocker arms I paid $200 for because I also bought the valve covers with the rocker arms. So it originally was $175. We called it $200 with the valve covers. She loves sleeping in here. She literally, when we're out here having fire, she just loves to lay on this rug. So either way, engine $1,100, balancer $180, rocker arms, valve covers $200. Bearings, I bought the rod bearings for $100. The transmission cost me $480 to have that built up. Big shout out to Tim McDaniel, Bomber Transmissions. I bought crocus cloth to polish the crank. That was $20. We bought a Ford seal for the the rear main seal. That was $20. The main bearings and the molly rings were $60. I bought those from a friend. Miscellaneous tools that I needed, I ended up spending $45. JJ loaned me a bunch of tools, saving money there. There's $100 I put here in miscellaneous items, which usually fall into RTV, oil, and everything else. So that actually comes out to about $100. Plus, I spent $130 last weekend between paint, curve kit, carburetor rebuild kit, so we can run the 950 on there. And so that's really about it. So what it comes down to is, I'll do the math because I actually forgot to do this. So let's see. We got 1,100 plus 180 plus 200, 100, 20, 20, 60, 45, plus 100 plus 130. So transmission, engine, and everything here, we're looking at $2,400 and $2,435 for everything. You know, and that's including the price of the. Did I include the distributor in there? I spent, how much did I pay for the distributor? $25.35. Sorry, I didn't add. I made this list before I bought the distributor. I thought I had it like ready to go, but it's $2,535 for everything. Obviously, the big bulk of it was probably spent in the last month. The engine I paid $1,100, so that means we spent about $1,400 to get everything together. But it was still a budget build, and we made it happen. And yeah, so this thing's got great oil pressure, and that means that everything is pretty good. So I'll talk to you guys about the specs. It's 30 over, compression's roughly at 9.75 to 1. The piston wall clearance was we were averaging between 4 thousandths and 5.5 thousandths. And your piston to wall clearance is just like it says. It's your skirt to piston wall clearance. And then on the rod clearances, we pretty much average 2 thousandths across the board. And on the rods number 2 and 1, we had on number 2 we had 3 thou, and on number 1 we had 2.5 thou. Mains were all pretty good. 5 was 3, 4 was 2.5, 3 was 2.5, 2 was 3, and 1 was 2.5 thou. So our main clearances were all within spec. Our ring end gaps, and by the way, when I'm talking about the bearing clearances and main clearances, that's the clearance between the rod or the main journal and the bearing shell. Everything kind of, you measure it in the block, you put the main caps in there with the bearings, you torque them, and then you measure the vertical number. Same thing with the rods, you measure the vertical number. You can measure at various points to see how out of round they are. Our rods only ended up being like 2 thou out of round at their widest, so that's pretty good. Ring end gaps were on the top ring, we did 25, and on the bottom ring, second ring, we did 31. We left the oil rings where they were at. Crankshaft end play was 8 thousandths, and that's how much thrust end play there is in the crankshaft, how much it will move forward and backward. Rod clearances, which are the clearance between the rods, that was 8 thou, which falls right within spec. Piston to deck, we found out that our pistons were sitting 30 thousandths in the hole, with our pistons being 18 cc's. And our camshaft end play was also 8 thousandths. So that's pretty much it. You know, I did the pretty basic standard stuff to check. Everything looked really good. And so I hope that Friday we're going to throw this on the run stand, and JJ's going to come down and we're going to throw it on the run stand, and then he's going to take it home and the transmission as well. And he's going to go ahead and install the engine, the transmission, that stuff. And then hopefully sometime towards the end of September, it sounds like it's going to be like the 3rd to 4th weekend of September, we'll probably be hitting the track with the car, which is right within our goals, I think, just time frame wise. Everybody's busy and stuff. So in the meantime, in between that, we probably are going to hit the track at least twice in that time frame. I'm thinking about hitting the track either Labor Day Monday, and then we have a local BOP race going on the 12th. So I still want to try out different carburetors, but if we do go into the pro class for the bracket, we'll probably be running the 750 because the car runs the number pretty good with this carb setup. And I'm just going to be chasing ET with the 850. So that's pretty much it, guys. That was our budget build, which I feel like was pretty damn good. All in all, with transmission and everything, we're at 25-35, and hopefully it stays together. So share, like, subscribe. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, I post a lot of random pictures and stuff of stuff I do at work, stuff I do in here. So you can follow me at Copper Cutlass on Instagram. Don't really get too involved on Facebook as much as I used to. The next video I'm going to do, probably in a day or two, is going to detail what the car ran with this combination, and I'm going to also detail the car that it's going to go into. We're at that point where we're going to make that whole bridge and tell you guys what exactly we got going on. So I'll let you guys go.